Hello, I'm RANGABASHIAM with Shubh Labh India, your guide to investing in India. As India, the world's largest democracy, goes through a transformation phase, the television industry is growing at a rapid pace. Today, the country with its over 1 billion population provides a huge opportunity to investors to grab a larger share of the growing market.
With great change comes great opportunity. And the Indian TV content distribution industry today, with its heady mix of gargantuan size, steep growth and a rapidly changing dynamics, presents just that. With over 112 million TV households, India's media and entertainment industry grew 17% in 2007 and is expected to grow at 22% in the next 5 years. The number of channels is expected to rise from 300 to 500. India is Asia's second largest pay TV market after Japan and is expected to surpass it by 2015.
I think it's very positive. I think it's booming. I think it is in a high growth phase, and this is the time when a lot of new offerings are coming, new brands are coming in. They will fight for market shares, they will fight for consolidation, and they will fight for a successful business model. I think a few years down the line there will be fewer players certainly, but bigger, larger players, and I think there is room for more.
The phenomenal growth in the media and entertainment sector can be attributed to economic growth, rising income levels, consumerism combined with technological advancements. The growth in the sector attracts foreign direct investment that surged to $211 million in 2007 against $89.18 million in 2006. Since the last decade, there has been a tremendous boom in satellite news and entertainment channels in India. The year 2007-2008 was marked by the entry of media and entertainment conglomerates Viacom Inc., NBC Universal Inc., and Walt Disney Corporation into India through partnerships with Network 18 Group, NDTV Networks, and UTV Software Communications Limited. And now, Qatar-based television network Al Jazeera is set to make its debut in India.
The marvelous thing about India is that it is the world's largest democracy, and I think a lot of people outside of India are aware of that and are very respectful of India about that. And I think that I think the fact that there are debates that occur within the political or economic world here, is something that applies to every country. And I think that the way that the Indian democracy is evolving, I think, is of great interest to a lot of people across the world, because it's a model for a lot of people in terms of a country that is so diverse and has so many kind of fascinating dimensions to it. So I think our interest at Al Jazeera English is to really satisfy the interest that we know exists globally, internationally, to understand events here in India far better.
There has been a growing craze of companies and individuals wanting to be a part of the action in the broadcasting space. Nearly 30 new television channels, national and regional, in the entertainment and news genre are in the pipeline. In this growing media economy, where there is a massive demand for TV, going bust is not an option.
The Indian channels today are largely catering to the masses, but there are niche segments which are yet to be explored. And here lies the potential for investment. Earlier, I spoke to Parun Das, the Chief Executive Officer of Zee News, the pioneer group in the private channels in India. As far as the investment opportunities go, I'm sure our viewers would like to know the kind of investment opportunities which is available in the media sector today in India.
Per se, the BRIC countries, overall the industry growth is far higher than the rest of the world, which is projected growth, I think close to about double the rest of the world's projected growth. And even the media industry for BRIC countries has been projected by about 3 times higher than the rest of the world. And obviously, the media industry in India is outgrowing the overall GDP of this country. And there are more, as I said, that the scope would only get enhanced because there are far more things which would sort of propel this growth which are in the offing. One of them is, I think, regionalization. The regional proliferation of media has been on, where Zee News operates in. We operate in the regional entertainment domain and news domain. And the other one is digitization. I think distribution has been one of the bottlenecks in Indian media industry, one of the impediments to growth. I think with digitization and proliferation of DTH, that will also be addressed. So Indian media industry, which is projected to grow by about CAGR of about 20% over the next few years, to my mind, will obviously outgrow this projection.
Yeah, but most of the media companies, if we see in India, we spoke about some 400 companies. Most of them, they are really small players. Do you see some kind of consolidation happening in this particular sector in the near future?
One of the biggest proliferations which we have seen in recent time is in the news domain. Currently, there are about 46 24-hour news channels in the country. About 6-7 years back, people used to ask that, why would you have a 24-hour news channel? So if you do by simple mathematics, every 2.5 months there's one news channel being launched in this country. Where we haven't seen that much of growth is specific interest channel. According to me, that has got something to do with the bottleneck which we have in the distribution front, which is still unorganized. And as I mentioned, that's getting organized as well as digitized. So growth of specific interest channel would drive the future growth to a large extent besides the regional proliferation. I think India is no more metro-centric economy. I think the growth, the next level growth which is being propelled by the Class 1 cities, Tier 1 cities of the country, not really the 8 metros which propel the growth so far. And at the same time, there's a proliferation of media vehicles in those markets. And that possibly would push up the advertising industry to a large extent. Currently, I think it's about 0.47% of our GDP, which is lower than most of the countries in this region itself.
Today, Indian companies are going out and making it big overseas. Same for the media segment as well. Do you see in the near future, our own homegrown Indian companies making a big impact, big splash in the overseas market?
Logically, yes. There are a few reasons for it. I can tell you from my first-hand experience. I was based out of the country for a couple of years in the Asian region in Kuala Lumpur. I've seen how Indian creativity is regarded so very highly elsewhere in the world. So I think there we definitely have an edge. Our content creativity is one of the best in the world. And as you know, even Bollywood is going global. The other thing which encouraged me a lot, seeing that the convergence of media and IT. And IT, we already have edged out our position in the world map. I think it's only a matter of time that in the media domain itself, there are potentials in Indian companies, and we are one of the biggest global players, if not the largest global players in India, which have significant operations and business across the world. So I think the potential is immense, and like IT, I think eventually India would be edged very, very prominently in the media business map of the world.
Yeah, and from the investment perspective, most of these companies which you spoke about, 400 companies, they're all closely held companies just by the promoters. They haven't gone public, except for a handful of companies like yours or NDTV and CNBC and others. Do you think that these companies over a period of time need to go to the public to get more capital?
Yes, I would tend to think that the size makes a difference. Consolidation and sort of packaging your bouquet gives you a certain edge. So therefore, there could be other ways of consolidations also. Maybe the bigger companies would take over or merge some of the smaller companies. But eventually, I think a thumb rule which I apply is that for any competitive market in India, the top 2 will make certain business sense, will make enough money. But 3 and 4 will have to do their business right to make money. And beyond that, I don't think it's feasible currently in next foreseeable future.
Barun, as far as joint ventures are concerned, do you see that overseas investors, especially investors of Indian origin, have a fairly good chance of coming here and forming joint ventures with media companies?
That's what I feel is the route a lot of worldwide media companies are looking for. I think obviously, even if 100% FDI is allowed in media, in entertainment television, but I think the foreign companies feel far more comfortable in working with a respectable Indian partner because the nuances of every market is different. So a JV sort of bring in strengths of both companies into play. So therefore, that's the route the foreign investors are evaluating. That's the first option I think they're evaluating now.
Well, time now for a quick break, but we'll be back in a few moments. China has done its best to make the Beijing Olympics a memorable event. India too has contributed its bit in making it a grand success by serving distinguished dignitaries from all across the world its unique aromatic tea. What made China import tea from India? We find out in a story on the Indian tea industry.
Stressed out? Time to relax with a cup of Indian tea. There are varieties and varieties of tea, but perhaps none more special than the Darjeeling tea. The tea treasure spots spread across the 86 tea gardens on the hilly slopes of Darjeeling in eastern India produce 22 million pounds of tea, which is just 1% of the total production in the country. The average production per acre here is almost half compared to production in other geographical regions. And this is because of its dry and cold climatic conditions and high altitude of 2000 meters, which slow the growth of tea leaf but improve its quality to provide a unique flavor for which it is known throughout the world. Go organic is the buzzword nowadays across the tea estates here. And this has paved the path for the import of more than 700 pounds of the uniquely flavoured organic Makai Bai tea to China for the Olympics. For Darjeeling tea, it's a turnaround story quite literally.
Originally, all the Chinese tea seeds, saplings, were brought into India and in Darjeeling and planted out 160, 170 years ago. And 170, 60 years later, to send the tea back to China, it was like carrying coal to Newcastle and getting paid a premium for it. So it was thrilling for the entire Makai Bari community.
The fame of Indian tea has not only reached to China, but has spread across the globe. Today, almost all tea-drinking countries import tea from India, making it the largest exporter of tea in the world. Tea exports from India grew from 169 million pounds in first half of 2008 to 192 million pounds during the same period last year. This jump of 13.5% in demand is actually driven by the shortfall of crop in Kenya and shooting demand of tea in Egypt, Pakistan, Iraq, apart from Russia, the largest consumer of Indian tea. It certainly brings a smile to the faces of tea exporters.
This year the market has been really good and for tea, and this is not specific to India. I mean, globally the tea market has been really high, and this is definitely a good sign for the industry, which is trying to revive after a lean period of 5-6 years. So we hope this trend continues for another coming years, and the industry comes out of that bad phase. This year has been really good in respect of the tea industry.
Riding on a robust demand from all across the world, including escalating consumption in the domestic market, total tea output for the first half of the year has inched up by 3% from 737 million pounds in the first half of 2007 to 760 million pounds in the corresponding period this year. The biggest contribution to this growth came from the small tea growers, who have been encouraged to grow tea crops in their small land holdings since 1988. The number of small tea growers has risen up to 55,000 today from just 5,000 2 decades back. And they now account almost 23% of the total tea production. Large-scale production of tea began in the 1820s when the British started commercial production of tea in India. With an experience of hundreds of years in tea cultivation, along with logistic support, research and development units, and even a degree course in tea husbandry and technology, which is the only of its kind in the world, India today leads the world in tea technology. Yet, an appetite for further expansion invites investment.
The government is really taking key interest. Similar project the government is undertaking in Calcutta. Probably they are trying to identify a land near Howrah. So there they can build up a tea park. The land will be provided with the government, and then different companies who are interested can take the land on lease and build their own infrastructure there. So they will have offices, they will have warehouses, they will have auction center, fully automated auction center, and hotels and recreational facilities for guests who come from outside.
Today, India produces 1,980 million pounds of tea, which make it a leading producer of tea in the world. Almost 70% of the production is consumed in India itself, and the country is considered the world's largest tea-drinking nation as well, with a per capita consumption of 1,650 pounds annually.
Moving on, economic liberalization brought a slew of changes in the industrial arena of the country. Many industrial units were set up. Established units increased their capacity to meet the growing global demand at that point of time. Today, the homegrown companies that have flourished in that era are planning to diversify.
Even as India was going through its economic makeover, in 1992 a story of success was being written with the establishment of Kitex Garments Limited in the southern city of Kochi. Today the company is one of the major exporters of garments to various countries including the United States, UK, Europe and Middle East. From Walmart, Russell, Wilson, Dunlop, Sara Lee to JC Penney, almost all top retailers source garments from Kitex.
We are very much famous in the adults, but we want to come to the famous in the children's also, school-going children's also, so that the children will attract to our group. So we thought to start, for that we started this school bag industry and giving advertisement. So in the children base we can give very good advertisement to the children so that children will attract easily, very easily.
From making goods for other brands, the company chose to go with their own brand, and they found their prime target market for their first branded product among children, for school bags. Using modern German equipments, KGL became the first garment unit to go for backward integration for its school bag units last year. It has brought the manufacturing cost down by 10 to 15%, making the branded bags available at affordable prices to compete with global brands.
Our bag range is around 150 to 450 maximum. So I don't think the other fellows are selling the high priced. So it is medium priced bag, there is a huge demand I think, because I expect around 20 million people, 200 million people are going to school in all over India. Whereas I think 100 million should be buy new bags every year.
Kitex wants to further penetrate the global market for children by setting up a whole new subsidiary, Kitex Children's Wear Limited. With an ambitious expansion plan, it is now shifting its attention from adult to children's market. The lucrative market for children worldwide attracts and compels companies to pump in billions of dollars, and Kitex is no exception.
Recently, Kitex became one of the 2 Indian companies to get the A-level certificate for worldwide responsible apparel production. Improved quality in Indian products has now brought recognition too. Well, time now for a short break, but there's much more lined up for you ahead in the show. Keep watching. Opulence, magic and emotions coupled with family and fanfare are the essential ingredients of an Indian wedding. And the wedding industry in India is scaling new heights every season, as there's no dearth of spenders who have now graduated to following the global trends. We take a look.
Splendor and grandeur are the 2 metaphors that gel well with the Indian wedding. Cash to splash was never a stigma, but the limits have now been stretched beyond imagination. A simple ceremony like the mehendi with close relatives is now part of a week or 10-day-long wedding celebrations, and the scale is only getting bigger. The average spending on wedding in India can vary between $23,000 to $100,000. However, Indians forget about their planned maximum budget when it comes to a wedding.
Anybody and everybody who has the spending power and who finds a reason enough to spend will spend. So that is what is driving the spends. So it's no longer about, having a budget. It's no longer about being restricted. It's no longer about following the conventional. It's about doing the unconventional. So have money, will spend. That's the motto these days.
Weddings in India are synonymous with pomp and show, where spending lavishly is the norm of the day. And with every passing season, the expenditure bar is being raised. The number of families having an annual income of $230,000 is all set to increase from 53,000 in 2005 to 140,000 by 2010. This will fuel the big fat Indian wedding market of $2.3 billion that's already registering a phenomenal growth of 25% every year.
It is just growing, and considering the importance of weddings for Indians, this growth can never either stagnate or come down, because more and more money which people have, at least in a country like India, people spend the maximum amount of money either on a wedding or when a child is born. So these are things which have a lot of emotional attachment also, and it's a once in a lifetime thing. So this growth will never stagnate ever, or this will never come down.
Wedding expos held across the country, including small towns and cities, are an attempt to redefine the concept of weddings. World-renowned names like Preston Bailey, who has designed the wedding of Oprah Winfrey, Donald Trump, James Parker, in collaboration with Ferns and Petals, set up his theme concept at the Vivah exhibition this year to woo the Indian customers and grab a share of the large Indian pie. The exhibition that brought the joy of celebrating weddings under one roof, apparels, jewelry, packaging and all other home luxuries did a business of $230 million last year. With the advent of the wedding planners, minute details like the trousseau packing, gifts, venue, honeymoon are all planned well in advance. So while marriages may be made in heaven, the Indians surely know how well to plan them on the earth. And herein lie investment opportunities.
The Great Indian Wedding today has no limits. For once in a lifetime event, Indians are now increasingly getting married at various destinations across the globe. And the South Asian countries have emerged their hot favorite wedding destinations. So be ready to host the Great Indian Wedding. Well, that's all we have for you in this episode of Shubh Labh India. This is RANGABASHIAM signing off on behalf of the entire production team of Shubh Labh India. Goodbye.